Hello everybody, my name is Kist, and today I have a little bit of a different video planned. A few days ago, a German video game company had an interview with Keume, the creator of Railroads Online. I have the video of the interview, I have the transcript, and I just want to talk about it. Let's get started. The footage you're currently seeing on the screen is from one of our switching operations from my save. We're trying to build a consist to go to the oil fields using the hump yard. But we're not going to stay on this entirely, we're actually going to switch between the interview and this footage, so just a heads up so you're not too confused. But let's actually go into the interview. So just a disclaimer before the video starts and we actually tune in, is the entire interview was in German. I used the auto-translate subtitles on YouTube, but there's some broken English, but we'll just try our best. I have it in English for the actual transcript, so I'll be referring to that, but let's just tune in and listen.
Railroads Online und bei mir ist
Stefan Kellenberger, hallo.
That's right, the man on the right is Stefan Keume, the creator of Railroads Online. This is, for me, the first look into actually who the dude is and what does he look like, and I know it's been a first for a lot of people. Regardless, though, I just think it's interesting, and that's all I wanted to point out. Let's get back into it and hear what they have to say.
Hallo Stefan, du bist, habe ich gerade gelernt, der alleinige Entwickler von Railroads Online.
Ja, also was das Coding anbetrifft und die Implementierung in der Unreal Engine, bin ich der einzige Developer so gesehen. Man muss aber auch dazu sagen, also wir arbeiten mit einem Team an sehr talentierten Artists zusammen, was jetzt 3D anbelangt, was 2D anbelangt.
So as they continue talking and the audio fades out, I'm going to keep playing it but just explain some stuff. For the first few minutes, it's just a lot of rambling. It's basically explaining what Railroads Online is, and as you can see, they're playing the game as well. So it's going to be gameplay footage on top of everything, but they're just going to do a lot of commentary for the first few minutes. I am, however, going to skip to the more interesting parts, and so we can just focus on that, get it done, so you don't have to hear the rambling and all this stuff. I'm going to assume a lot of you already know how to play the game. And let's just go ahead and skip to the first interesting part.
Zur Seite geholt, das uns in der Entwicklung unterstützt. Das heißt, wir streben jetzt an, das Ganze nächstes Jahr als Version 1.0 zu veröffentlichen.
Whoa. What? Version 1.0 next year? If you don't know what that means, that's the full release of the game, like an out of early access. The base game is complete, quote unquote. Next year, that's 2024, we're currently 4 months away from that. I'm not saying it's going to happen in January, but that means 2024 we should be out of early access at some point in the year. He goes on to mention this a few more times in the interview, but the first time he says it is like, whoa, wait, what? So that's something we can kind of expect on our radar is version 1.0, the full release of the game in 2024. It may be a little ambitious, but makes me excited.
Das Gleiche. Die Map kann man auch noch ausgestalten. Wir haben geplant, die Vegetation zu erweitern. Wir haben ja das Wettersetting und die Unreal Engine 5, die wir auch schon
Look at that, that's rather interesting. What he was just talking about there was the actual map aesthetic, how it's actually looking. He mentioned that we already have a big improvement with the weather and sky update, just how the overall atmosphere is looking, but then he also mentions the vegetation. I want to reread what he actually said. What we have planned on the map, for example, the trees that you can see, they're all the same model. It's all the same across the map. But we also have plans to expand the vegetation. That is rather interesting. And if you follow on Twitter or if you've seen the teases, they actually have bigger and smaller tree models already. And hopefully before 2024 we can also see that we actually have a different kind of vegetation, different forestation. We got a little bit of that in the spring with the different tree models, but it'd also be cool to see different heights in trees and maybe different bushes, just more details. Shortly after this, he actually talks about the UI, so let's go check that out.
Ich vermute auch das Interface, welches man unten sieht, wird sich noch ändern.
Die UI ist tatsächlich auch ein Punkt, der noch ausgestaltet werden muss. Also es ist sehr rustikal im Moment. Aber das wird auch noch ein Update sein, in dem wir das in Angriff nehmen, damit es einfach zum Gesamtspiel passt.
Okay, so this one's very simple. He's just talking about the UI. He wants to get it revamped. He literally just called it rustic. And so I'm sure maybe probably in the near future, I think this one's going to be one of the easier ones, is to get the UI revamped so it's a little bit more modern and simpler. He said that he wants it to be an easy part in the overall game. Sounds good to me. I don't have any beef with that. Let's keep going.
Was gibt es bis jetzt für Industriezweige und welche habt ihr vor noch hinzuzufügen?
Ja, wir haben ganz klassisch das Holzfällercamp, wo wir die Baumstämme haben. Dann darf natürlich die Sawmill nicht fehlen, also die Säge, das Sägewerk, Smelter. Wir haben diverse Minen, die Raffinerie, die wir hier sehen. Auch das Ölfeld gehört da dazu. Wir haben noch weitere Industriezweige geplant, die auch ein bisschen weiter verzweigt werden sollen. Das heißt, beispielsweise was Viehzucht anbelangt, wir haben ja bereits den Viehwaggon in einem Update eingeführt. Das soll dann auch noch weitergeführt werden in der Industriekette, damit man das noch weiter verarbeiten kann. Wir haben uns noch überlegt, vielleicht Steinbrüche, das wäre auch noch ein interessantes Thema. Oder auch was Weizen oder auch Agrarprodukte anbelangt, also Bäckerei oder einfach diese Industriekette abzubilden. Genau.
Holy that's what? Yeah, finally some really juicy stuff. Industries, what's actually going to be coming to the game. Really clearly, he just states other branches of industry are planned. He goes on to list a livestock farm, possibly quarries, and agricultural products like wheat, other crops, and something like a bakery should be coming possibly in the future. He goes on just after this clip, or I think he also just said it there, was to create a proper industrial chain and kind of get, I want to say, the industry balance is fixed. I do have permission to include this next part, is for all of us that predicted that the livestock car, the new extra box car, was the precursor to something, that is correct. The livestock car was the hint that the next industry, or probably one of the next industries, is a livestock farm, maybe a slaughterhouse, those kind of things. But it's exciting! Livestock farm, quarries, more crops, agricultural products, and even a bakery. That's something that we can probably see in our future. Let's keep going.
So. Ist denn die Idee, dass man es in Zukunft irgendwann automatisiert, also dass man den Zügen wie Fahrpläne gibt, oder fährt man immer selber?
Ja, geplant ist, dass man die also wirklich in First Person selber fährt. Es wäre aber durchaus denkbar, dass wir eine AI oder eine KI integrieren, die beispielsweise auch mit Signalen interagieren kann. Das wäre durchaus denkbar. Konkret haben wir da aber jetzt noch nichts umgesetzt. Aber es wäre durchaus denkbar, dass wir das in einem Update angehen.
Okay, so this is really interesting in my opinion. What he was just talking about there was the possibility of automation and even AI within Rails Online. I'm not going to read verbatim what he said, but let me read you my notes. He mentioned that we could see AI bots to help, maybe to set train orders, and with the use of signals, it can all be automated. He also kind of saves himself and says it's possible and maybe something that they can do, but it's later down the line. Probably because it's hard to code or maybe hard to implement. But that's really interesting, having some form of AI to help run trains. It makes me think of Railroader. In the fall Railroader 2023 update, they mentioned how they have AIs to help with switching and some small stuff. Makes me wonder if it's a very similar idea. Maybe that's what he's aiming forward. But I'm actually excited for the supplementary stuff. Set train orders and then signals. That will be really cool. I can't wait to see if that's actually going to be in the game. And right after, he actually talks about Betsy. Why Betsy is called, well, Betsy. Let's take a listen.
Da sehen wir die Betsy. Das ist die erste Lok, die wir bekommen. Warum heißt sie so, wie sie heißt?
Ja, die Betsy, dieser Name, da habe ich auch eine Zeit lang spekuliert. Also es gibt ja bei uns meistens der klassische Name Bertha für eine große, schwere Maschine. Da fand ich also Betsy, das ist ein bisschen amerikanisch oder amerikanisiert. Passt, glaube ich, ganz gut. Und dadurch, dass sie die kleinste Lokomotive ist, das ist auch ein bisschen ironisch gemeint. Dadurch ist, glaube ich, Betsy ein sehr passender Name und dann ist bei Betsy geblieben.
Okay, so this one's kind of funny and also a little interesting. Why the name Betsy for a little porter? Well, it kind of sounds like he said Berta. He said verbatim, the name Berta for a great heavy machine. But that's kind of wrong. I don't know if that's a translation thing. It should be Bertha. You know, Big Bertha, that's usually referred to something grand or funny, just a giant machine. But he also found the name Betty. That sounds more American is what he said. So I think he was like, okay, Bertha, it's funny, but Betty sounds more American, but let's probably not name it Betty. So Betsy was the compromise. He mentioned, quote here, I think it's more Americanized and it fits quite well. So, and I agree, I think it's a name we all have come to love over these last few years. And yeah, so it's pretty funny. He mentions it's ironic, and the next few minutes is all just gameplay. But something really interesting, probably the biggest thing I've captured so far, was the building mechanics. So let's go jump over and hear what he has to say about the building mechanics in RO.
An diesem Berghang entlang. Klappt das gut? Kommen die Leute damit zurecht?
Ja, das ist natürlich eine gewisse Herausforderung. Wir haben aber auch noch ein Update geplant, bei dem wir das Ganze etwas vereinfachen mit einem Planungstool. Das heißt, der Spieler hat dann die Möglichkeit, entsprechend seiner geplanten Route Punkte zu markieren, die dann auch eine Information darüber geben, wie steil wird denn die Strecke, beziehungsweise an welcher Höhenkoordinate befinde ich mich gerade. Momentan ist das eine relativ große Herausforderung, das zu planen. Aber wie gesagt, durch das Update werden wir da noch ein bisschen Nachhilfe geben, damit es auch leichter wird, die Strecken dann auch zu planen und auszuführen über die Karte.
Wir haben eben im Baumenü schon gesehen, dass es auch Brücken gibt. Wird es dann auch Tunnel geben?
Tunnel ist auch noch ein weiterer Punkt auf unserer Liste, den wir umsetzen werden. Wir haben da auch schon einen Prototypen, der soweit funktioniert. Das Ganze muss jetzt noch ein bisschen ausreifen, aber prinzipiell können wir schon sagen, dass Tunnel durchaus im Rahmen des Möglichen sind und wir das in die 1.0 mit reinbringen werden.
That was quite of a lot to listen to, and let's break it down. First, he just simply brings up the building tool. How is it going to be working? Keume then mentions something about a planning tool, where we have the ability to use markers to design routes. He goes on to say that it should tell you how steep, what elevation are you building, and just give us more specific information about where we're laying our tracks. But he also disclaims that it's very challenging to do so and get it to code properly. When it comes to implementing it into Roads Online, he mentioned something about tutorials per update, or just some kind of guide to ease people in, but the overall goal is to make building in Roads Online easier, and how we're going to be able to do that is by planning routes with some type of markers. He then gets asked something about tunnels, and yes, tunnels are in the works. Apparently he mentioned that they actually have a tunnel prototype that does work, and it's definitely going to be implemented in version 1.0. And again, that is full release of the game. Very, very exciting stuff, and since my channel is designed towards track laying, it just makes me very excited because I can't wait to see how that's going to work, if or when it does. Very shortly after, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes after this, he talks about maps, new maps coming to Roads Online. So let's go see what he has to say.
So, was habe ich vergessen? Ah ja, genau, die Map. Ist das die finale Map oder wird es noch andere Maps geben oder die Map sich noch erheblich verändern?
Ja, das ist nicht die finale Map, also wir werden noch weitere Maps nachliefern. Wir haben durchaus geplant, das Ganze ein bisschen zu variieren, auch von den Biomen, die wir hier haben. Hier haben wir nur den Nadelwald, aber für die 1.0er Version werden wir durchaus auch mehrere Maps haben, auf denen man auch Abwechslung erleben kann und die Landschaft sich auch entsprechend verändert, beziehungsweise dem Vorbild näher kommt, dem wir nacheifern.
Wow, this is really interesting. We're coming on the close of the interview. There's only one more thing I want to mention after this, but he was just talking about maps. It's officially confirmed by the own creator of the game that we will have more maps and a lot of variety within them. And what do I mean? Just right there, he mentioned that the current map we have is not the final one. There will be other maps, and he goes on to say even several maps. Within them are going to be different biomes and just a wide variety of landscape. He also wants to get rid of just the single tree, as I mentioned earlier in the vegetation. But all this is supposed to come out maybe for the 1.0 release. It may not be all the new maps, but just at least one or a few more by the time we get there. He does go on to kind of save himself again and say that it's very ambitious, but it's something he wants to do. That's really it when it comes to the maps. The next minute or two, they go back to talking about gameplay and wrapping things up. And at the very, very end of the interview, Keume mentions a few things. He says that he's very happy with the amount of community interaction that it's gotten in recent. He's happy that the entire operation is running 100% smoothly, and he's very excited that they have a new developer studio on board with them, which means more coding and support within the game and the performance. He's also really aiming to get version 1.0 next year in 2024. Again, if anything, all this stuff is very exciting. There's a lot of cool things that's happening in the future, and I'm just ready for it. I also know a little bit extra information that tells me that it's probably going to come sooner than we're all thinking. I don't know when. I've been told that it's coming. That's about it. Now, if you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. We're going to probably end the video here. But yeah, guys, there's just a lot to talk about. A lot of cool and exciting things coming to Rivets Online within the next year. A lot of it's probably going to come soon, within the first half of 2024. And again, I'm just really, really excited. There's no other words I have for it. Now, if you guys have any questions or follow-up things, please drop them in the comments below. I will be looking at them, trying to answer as best I can. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Alright guys, as we're coming to the close of the video, I have one more thing to talk about. Turns out not so many of you are subscribed. I know we just got a lot of new viewers, a lot of new subs, and if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. It's free. You can always take it back later, and it really does help me out in the long run. Alright guys, my name is Kist, and thank you for watching.